The office hummed with the usual chaos, keyboards clacking, phones ringing, the low murmur of stressed employees. Maria Lopez barely noticed any of it. Her focus was on her buzzing phone, her mother's name flashing across the screen. A knot tightened in her stomach. Mama never calls during work hours. She answered in a hushed whisper. Mama, ¿qué pasa? Her mother's voice trembled on the other end, words spilling out too fast. The doctor's appointment, the test results, the fear in her tone, Maria's grip on the phone tightened. She didn't notice the footsteps behind her until a shadow fell over her desk. Is there a reason you're not speaking English, Lopez? The voice was ice. Maria turned to see Mr. Thompson looming over her, his expression sharp enough to cut glass. The office around them went still. Someone's chair squeaked. A printer jammed mid-page. Maria swallowed. It's my mom, it's important. Thompson didn't blink. This isn't a mercado, you know the rules. His voice carried across the silent floor. Pack your things, you're done. The words hit like a slap. Maria's mouth opened, but no sound came out. Her phone slipped from her fingers, clattering against the desk. Somewhere behind her, Lisa from HR lowered her coffee cup, her eyes narrowing. And in her pocket, her thumb hovered over her phone's record button, just in case. The air in the office thickened. This wasn't just a firing. This was the spark before the explosion. Maria's hands shook as she stared at Thompson, his words still ringing in her ears. You're done. The office was frozen, every eye locked on them, every breath held. She forced herself to speak, her voice barely above a whisper. Mr. Thompson, please, it was just one call. My mother is sick. He didn't flinch. Rules are rules, he said, cold and final. This is an English-speaking workplace. If you can't follow that, you don't belong here. A few gasps scattered through the room. Maria's face burned, her throat tight. She glanced at her coworkers. Some looked away, guilty. Others clenched their jaws, furious but silent. Then a chair scraped back. That's bullshit. The voice came from the sales team, Jake, the quiet guy who never spoke up. Thompson's head snapped toward him. She wasn't even talking to a client. What's the harm? Thompson's lip curled. You want to join her? Jake hesitated, then sat back down. The message was clear, no one steps out of line. Maria's vision blurred. She reached for her bag, her movements slow, mechanical. Around her, the office stayed eerily quiet, the tension suffocating. Then click, a soft sound barely noticeable. Lisa from HR stood near the break room, her phone angled just slightly toward them. Her expression was unreadable, but her fingers were steady, recording. Maria wiped her eyes and straightened. She wouldn't beg anymore. Fine, she said, louder this time, but this isn't over. Thompson smirked. For you it is. He turned and walked away, leaving Maria standing there, the weight of the moment pressing down. But behind her, Lisa slipped her phone back into her pocket and hit save. The elevator doors slid shut behind Maria, sealing her away from Thompson's smug expression, but not from the storm brewing inside her. She barely made it to the parking garage before her legs gave out. Slumping against the concrete wall, she finally let the tears fall. How could this happen? Over a phone call, over Spanish. Her phone buzzed, a text from Jake. This is messed up. HR needs to hear about this. Upstairs, the office was anything but quiet. Whispers slithered through cubicles. Did you see that? He's always been like this. Lisa from HR watched it all unfold, her fingers tapping against her desk. She'd seen Thompson's temper before, but this was different. This was evidence. By noon, 3 coworkers had slipped into her office, shutting the door behind them. It's not just Maria, one said, voice low. Last month, he yelled at Raj for his accent during a presentation. Another chimed in. And remember when he joked about Carmen's lunch smelling too ethnic? Lisa's pen hovered over her notepad, her jaw tightening. This wasn't a one-time thing. This was a pattern. Meanwhile, Maria scrolled through her contacts, pausing at labor rights attorney. Her thumb hovered, then her screen lit up with Lisa's name. Meet me at Café Luz, 2 p.m., the text read. Bring your phone. Maria arrived to find Lisa already waiting, 2 coffees between them, no small talk. Thompson, done this before, Lisa said, sliding a file across the table. Incident reports, complaints, all buried, all ignored. But not this time. She pulled out her own phone and hit play. Thompson's voice snarled through the speaker. This is Mexico. Rules are rules. Maria's breath caught. You recorded it. Lisa's smile was razor-thin, and so did half the office. She tapped her screen, a group chat flooded with videos, voice memos, even security footage. We've got him. Maria sat back, the weight of it all pressing into her chest. This wasn't just about her job anymore. This was about everyone Thompson had ever pushed down. She looked at Lisa. What now? Lisa took a slow sip of coffee. Now, she said, we make sure the whole world hears it. The conference room was tense as Lisa placed her phone on the table, recording still playing. Thompson's sneering voice filled the air. This isn't Mexico. Rules are rules. The HR director's face darkened with each word. Maria sat perfectly still, watching as Thompson shifted in his seat, his confidence cracking. This is clearly a violation of company policy and federal law, the director said coldly. Thompson tried to laugh it off. Come on, she was being unprofessional. Speaking Spanish to her mother is unprofessional, Lisa cut in. She slid a stack of documents forward, incident reports dating back years, all buried, all ignored. This is systematic discrimination. And now, she tapped her phone, it's documented. Thompson's face went pale. You can't be serious. I've been with this company for 15 years too long, the director finished. She stood abruptly. You're suspended effective immediately. The board will decide your future after a full investigation. As Thompson stormed out, Maria finally exhaled. But the real shock came the next morning when she woke to 50 missed calls. A coworker had leaked the recording online, and overnight it had exploded. News outlets picked it up. Hashtags trended. The company's stock price dropped 3% by noon. The CEO himself called Maria directly. We're reinstating you immediately, he said, voice strained. With back pay, and we'd like you to head our new diversity initiative. Maria hung up in stunned silence. Outside her window, protesters were gathering at the company's headquarters, chanting her name. Somewhere in the city, Thompson sat in his empty apartment, fielding calls from reporters, and one from his lawyer. Lisa texted her a single link. The video had hit 5 million views. Told you, it read. The internet never forgets. The news vans camped outside corporate headquarters for a week. Every major outlet wanted the story. The racist executive, the brave employee, the viral recording that exposed it all. Maria's inbox overflowed with interview requests, but she ignored them. She had work to do. Her first day back felt surreal. The office buzzed, not with tension but with something new, respect. Coworkers stopped by her desk, offering quiet thanks. Some shared their own stories of Thompson's cruelty, now emboldened to speak. The company issued a public apology and announced mandatory sensitivity training, but Maria knew better. Real change would take more than corporate memos. Meanwhile, Thompson's downfall played out in real time across social media. His LinkedIn profile vanished. Old colleagues came forward with stories. His wife filed for divorce. The board voted unanimously to terminate him with cause, stripping his severance and benefits. The legal team quietly prepared for the wrongful termination lawsuit they knew was coming. At Maria's promotion ceremony, the CEO handed her a plaque, Head of Diversity and Inclusion, but the real victory came when she walked past her old desk. A new nameplate sat there, Jake Rodriguez, team lead. The guy who'd almost spoken up that day now had Thompson's old job. Lisa slid into the seat beside her at the celebration lunch. You know they only did this because they got caught, right? She muttered over champagne. Maria smiled. Doesn't matter why they did it, she said, watching the team laugh together. Only matters that it sticks. Across town, Thompson sat alone in a half-empty apartment scrolling through job listings, all of which required excellent interpersonal skills. His phone rang. Another reporter. He let it go to voicemail. 6 months later, Maria spotted him at a downtown coffee shop. Thompson looked different, smaller somehow, hunched over a laptop in a wrinkled shirt, his expensive watch missing. The arrogant glint in his eye had been replaced by something hollow. She watched as the barista called his name, "Order for Tom," and saw him flinch at the casual nickname. When he reached for his coffee, his sleeve rode up, revealing the faded tan line where his Rolex used to sit. Maria made her decision. "Mr. Thompson." He froze at her voice, shoulders tensing before turning. His eyes flickered over her designer blazer, the company badge still hanging around her neck. A muscle jumped in his jaw. Maria didn't smile, just pushed a 20 across the counter. "Large black coffee for this gentleman," she told the barista, "and whatever pastry he wants." Thompson stared at the money like it might bite him. "What's this?" "Not an apology," Maria said quietly, "just coffee." For a long moment they stood there, the boss who tried to break her, the woman who'd outlasted him. The cafe buzzed around them, oblivious. Finally Thompson took the cup. His fingers trembled slightly. "I applied at your company last week." He forced the words out. "HR rejected me in 20 minutes. Maria adjusted her bag. "I know, I saw the application." She held his gaze. "Policy is policy." The ghost of his old smirk surfaced. "Taché." She turned to leave, pausing at the door. Behind her, she heard the crumple of paper as Thompson tossed the 20 in the tip jar. Outside, the sun was bright. Maria took a deep breath and kept walking, past the coffee shop, past the memories, into whatever came next. Maria's story didn't end with coffee or quiet victories. It became a spark, one that lit fires in offices across the country. The video of Thompson's outburst was studied in business ethics courses. New laws were proposed to protect employees from language discrimination. And every time someone whispered, "This isn't Mexico," in a workplace, a dozen phones secretly started recording. Back at her desk, now in a corner office with her name on the door, Maria kept a single screenshot framed. The moment her story hit 1 million shares, not for pride but as a reminder. Power isn't permanent, bullies aren't invincible, and sometimes justice doesn't roar, it goes viral. So what about you? Have you seen something wrong at your job, stayed silent when you should have spoken up, or maybe you're the one who hit record when no one else would? Drop your story in the comments, because change doesn't happen by accident. It happens when people like you, yes, you watching right now, decide enough is enough. Hit subscribe. More stories like this are coming, and next time, it might be your turn to speak up.